Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Candace Corson, and I am here tonight with the Cortese group. We have the most wonderful speaker tonight, an important topic on the gut, the microbiome, probiotics and prebiotics. And our guest speaker will be Dr. Tamara Sachs. I want to just say a bit about our beautiful company, the Juice Plus Company. In 1970, Jay Martin, our founder, started this company with a mission to bring to the marketplace products that truly enhance and protect the quality of life. He started with smoke detectors for the home in 1970, and then air and water filtration for the home and offices and even hospitals in the 1980s. And then the Juice Plus family of nutrition products in the 1990s, and the Tower Garden in 2012. From that point forward, now 50 years later, we are a company that still promotes the message of inspiring healthy living and healthy giving around the world. Today, we are in over 25 countries with our products in our partnership business. The Juice Plus product line and the Tower Garden technology are recognized around the world. In addition, Jay Martin put into place an opportunity to engage individuals from all walks of life to align with these values and to share these products and to be compensated for their efforts in doing so. Let's get to our main event tonight. Our wonderful speaker, Dr. Tamara Sachs, is focused on teaching people how their bodies work and creating healthier communities with functional medicine and high-tech plant food nutrition. She graduated with honors from the Mount Sinai School of Medicine in New York City and completed her residency in internal medicine in New Haven, Connecticut at Yale University Medical Center and St. Raphael's Hospital. She has been an emergency medicine doctor in New Haven for 4 years and then became a primary care doctor for the next 10 years. In 2003, she founded the Functional Medicine and Integrative Care Clinic in New Milford, Connecticut, where she helps people prevent and heal from chronic illness and premature aging by addressing their root causes. So many people I know want a doctor just like her. Her website is full of great information and vetted good sources. You can follow her on social media and join her monthly question and answer calls about functional medicine. It's open to all. So at this point, I just want to bring you in, Dr. Tamara Sachs, and thank you for all you do, and thank you for sharing with us tonight.
Well, thank you, Candace. Thank you all for being on. Another Monday full of healthy, rather healthy, focused people. It's always nice to see how many people join us on Monday. I'm going to share my slides here with you guys. And tonight, I really want to delve into the microbiome a bit more. Some of you have heard some information about the microbiome, but none of us have really been talking too much about the probiotic part. So that's what I want to focus on tonight. Let me just get started. Oops, I forgot to share. Oh, sorry, I did the share button without the share button. Here we go. Screen one, share. Give me a thumbs up, Lori, somebody. Oh, that's not the right slide. Yep. Hang on a minute. I had a battle with Microsoft today. Stop share. Let me try that again. And I had to reboot everything in my world. This should work. Do you see a pink slide?
Yes, it's good.
Huh, okay. I'm not seeing what I should be, but okay. All right. So there are 9 probiotics in our new product that I want to talk about. This is the product that inspired this talk. This is Super Biome, the newest product by the Juice Plus company. I'm excited to talk about it. I'm excited about it. I think it really fills a hole in our health needs, and I'll explain to you why that is and why I think it's a fairly revolutionary product. Certainly it's unique. So let's talk about why that is. And just first a little primer on our friends, the microbiome. That slide didn't come out. There we go. Now it did. So many of you know that the microbiome is big in the news these days. Some of you don't know. So just a quick refresher that the microbiome is kind of taken over medical research. It's becoming really super important in every field of medicine, as we'll mention in just a few minutes. But what is it? It's this trillions of microbes, not just bacteria, mostly bacteria that we're interested in, but there's viruses and there's all sorts of other microorganisms that are in our entire body and on our skin. They're everywhere. Our sinuses, our mouth has a microbiome, our ovaries have a microbiome. We have microbiomes everywhere, but the biggest microbiome, and the one we're talking about, is the gut microbiome, and that's mostly in the large intestine. But there's also a microbiome in the stomach and the small intestine, just to a much smaller amount. So just understand it's part of us in every part of us, but we're talking about the large intestine. And you can see right here that it's a big part of us, right? It's probably more than 1,000 species. We've identified around 500, and the list keeps growing. It's going to end up, I think, being thousands of species. And as we'll talk about, it's the interaction of these species that is really very important. It's very sensitive. The microbiome changes constantly. It changes from our birth history to all the other things that you'll see here. And we'll talk about some of those influences as well as we go on. And the one thing I just want to warn you guys about is it's still very early days in science, because there is a concomitant marketing world out there trying to sell us stuff. I have been seeing probiotics advertised specifically to treat specific things like Parkinson's disease and so on. I think those are way not ready for prime time and jumping way ahead of themselves. And I would posit that no one probiotic is going to cure any one thing, but that they certainly do seem to have each of the probiotic classes seem to have very particular skills, if you will, and put them all together and they make us healthy. But it's still early days, so I caution you with what you're hearing not to jump the gun too much. So a quick reminder and or primer for those that do or don't know. This is what we're talking about here, this connection between the gut and the whole rest of our body, especially our brain. And it goes by the gut by you feed the microbes in the gut these prebiotics. That's where it starts. You got to feed them, right? And we talk about prebiotics. They're mostly fibers. There's also short chain fatty acids, but they're the food that the microbiome of the gut prefers. It's plant fibers. And then when we eat those prebiotics, those plant fibers in a colorful variety of plant foods, they go into the gut and feed the microbes that are in the gut that we call probiotics, pro-life probiotics, right? And those microbes in the gut that we call probiotics then create postbiotics. And these are the active compounds that lower inflammation, that heal our brain, that does so much more that we'll talk about, including exactly GPL. GPL-1s are a postbiotic made by our gut. The drug companies have copied what our gut already does. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But this is the system we're talking about. You feed the gut, you feed the microbiome, and then in turn, they make these active compounds called postbiotics, which go to the brain and all over the body to make us healthy. And that's why the world of medical research has been revolving now around the microbiome, because it seems to create these postbiotics that touch on every single aspect of our health. And that's what you're going to understand, I hope, by the end of this half hour. So these postbiotics, again, are lots of different small molecules. There's an array of them, and they do things like protect the gut and digest your food. They increase blood flow. They lower inflammation in your brain as well as everywhere. They turn on these molecules in your brain that help us reconnect nerve cells and repair damaged nerve cells and make our connections, i.e. memories and creativity, right? Make those connections between neurons better. And there's a whole bunch of genes that are regulated by the microbiome and the postbiotics that they make. And that's called gene expression. And one of those are GPL-1s that many of us have heard of, whether it's Monjovi or Ozempic. Those are all GPL-1 drugs, but the gut makes GPL-1 also when it's healthy. Thank you very much. So let's make it that way, preferably. So let's just talk for a minute why this is so important and why some of us, myself included at times, who eat really well and really live a healthy lifestyle still have a hard time with our gut, intermittently maybe, or chronically for some of us. But just a really short list of all the things that affect our gut adversely. First of all, there was a study recently showing that more than half of all babies had fewer than half of the good probiotics that they needed at birth. This was not just C-section babies. So our whole environment has changed, the entire environment in utero, to change the microbiome of babies being born right now. So they're starting out at a deficit to begin with. And then the list of medications besides antibiotics, which most of us recognize, the list of medications that affects adversely the microbiome is so long I couldn't put it on one slide. But non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like Motrin, Advil, Nuprin are all very much anti-gut in general, right? PPI, which are acid blocking drugs, proton pump inhibitors, are notorious for changing the microbiome. I would say all the gut drugs, anything from Pepto-Bismol, antacids, PPIs, Prilosec, Pepcid, all of them, if they affect the gut, they affect the microbiome, and usually not in a great way. Birth control pills are known to affect the microbiome adversely. So are steroids, so are certain antidepressants, opioids, which I spelt wrong, and certain statins. Now, it doesn't mean that if you need to take these drugs, you're doomed. Thank goodness we're very resilient creatures, right? And we can handle one or two or three of these things. We're all here. We've all survived multiple courses of antibiotics in our life if you're the average American. So these are just examples of things that injure the microbiome that we need to bounce back from. It doesn't mean that it's all bad, right? We know that stress raises cortisol. Cortisol is not good for the microbiome. Poor sleep raises cortisol. So when you don't sleep well, you don't rest and recuperate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? We know that processed foods, the chemicals in processed foods directly negatively affect the microbiome, as do artificial sweeteners are really bad for the microbiome. Splenda, all those pink packets, yellow packets, blue packets, all of them. Sugar isn't so great for the bad bugs, but overall it's nowhere near as damaging to the microbiome as the artificial sweeteners might be or are. And then the microbiome feeds by having exposure to good bacteria, to good microbiome of nature. And so because we've been raised in this super clean environment with too much hygiene, and we don't get out in nature enough, and we don't have a farm and play with animals and muck manure and all that stuff that we used to do every day that exposed us to a lot more bacteria, we are lacking. That's the hygiene theory. We're lacking in the normal microbiome that helps stimulate our microbiome to be healthier. And then most Americans, most people in these parts of the world, I would say, eat a very low fiber diet compared to our ancestors who hunter-gatherers eat over 100 grams of a variety of fiber a day. We're lucky if we get 30. Most people get 10. And that's why we're starving our microbiome as well. But beyond that, even if you eat a lot of fiber, it can't be just one kind of fiber or two, right? Or psyllium husks or, right, whatever it might be. You need the variety. And that's why you cannot replace a good diet with anything other than more plant foods. And then lastly, which is a whole talk in and of itself, environmental toxins really hurt our microbiome. Microplastics is the new kid on the block, but we've had heavy metals and molds and other kinds of toxins in the environment forever. And we're only just beginning to understand the impact that they have. There are actually some bugs in the microbiome that might be good for us in dissolving microplastics, for example. There are some bugs that help detoxify hormones and certain bacteria that do the opposite. So it's not all bad. It's just things that we have to be aware of. And so in general, the rule of thumb is that the more plant diversity you eat, the better you are for a lot of reasons. All these different plant colors also bring you different antioxidants and different nutrients, not just difference to the microbiome, but that's what we're talking about tonight. But just to remind you, we also need this huge variety for a lot more reasons. But it turns out the microbiome really needs variety. And so I used to always tell patients to eat more servings of colorful fruits and vegetables. And now I tell people to eat a wider variety. It's more important to eat different kinds of plants than it is to eat 10 servings of just broccoli. Okay, so the variety feeds different bacteria, primarily different microbiome, different microbia in the microbiome, to be precise. All the different bugs that we have need different plants and like different plants. And so one kind of probiotic may prefer beets or carrots, another kind may prefer greens and so on. That's why we need that variety. And in turn, what the microbiome will give you is this huge variety of these postbiotics, which in turn are healing, right? So, the other advantage of eating a super wide variety is colorful foods typically contain things called polyphenols. The deeper the color, the reds and the purples especially are rich in these plant compounds called polyphenols. There's a lot of polyphenols. It's about 100 plus of polyphenols. But the cool thing is polyphenols, meaning colorful plants, not just feed the microbiome overall, but some of these polyphenols specifically help these good bugs have antibacterial benefits. So people that eat a good variety of plant foods also have fewer gut infections because it turns out that polyphenols will starve out bad bugs and feed good bugs. Do not ask me how they know. I do not know. I'm not sure anyone knows yet, but there are qualities of certain kinds of gram-negative bugs that are not good bugs that will not be fed by healthy food, but they will be fed by junk food. So really what you eat matters in so many possible ways. And so this is why I've always been a fan of the Juice Plus products, the essential capsules primarily for me, and then the superfoods, which come along sooner, as well as the complete. Now, if you put those all together, you have 46 different plants, variety, right, being important. And unfortunately, missing in this picture is the Omega blend, which adds 5 more plants to the picture, taking us to a nice 40 or 50 something, 51, 52, whatever it is. So doing this every day, adding the habit of Juice Plus to your already diet and important lifestyle changes every day really changes the game for your microbiome as well as for the rest of you, because it provides all of these nutrients from so many different plant sources, and only plant sources, if you don't know. And that variety is to help your diet, not to replace it or substitute for it, but to help us with the inevitable difficulties of getting this many different kinds of plants in our bodies every single day. And it's the every single day thing I want to emphasize for a minute that's so critical. It's one thing to eat really well on and off, and that's good. Don't get me wrong, it's great. But what's magical about Juice Plus is the ability to flood your entire body with all of this nutrition every single day. Because the damage that we have from living and aging and living in this toxic world is cumulative every single minute of the day. And so you want that plant protection every single minute of the day, not just the days when you have the time to eat a really big salad and all the rest, not just when the garden's in bloom or the tower garden is full, but in the dead of winter or when I'm traveling, I can still get all these, the benefits of these 50 odd different plants. And I do, and I haven't missed a day since I read all the research many years ago. So that's the basis. That's the omega. For me not to forget to tell you that omegas, while not fiber, are also a very important food for the microbiome. And they make some essential molecules from those omega-3s as well as from plant fiber. So this is our new product called Super Biome that I love. It's a combination product, which makes it unique. This is a product that has both the good bugs, the probiotics that many of us are familiar with and may have taken, but we're combining it with the food for these really good bugs. So even though I just showed you that most of us are trying to eat this every day and or take Juice Plus every day, our guts are in such a mess that this just isn't enough. And to be fair, the amount of fiber in these capsules or superfood is great, and it's way more than most of us are getting, but it's not enough. It's not 100 grams, right? It's 6 capsules. It's a small amount. What's unique, excuse me a minute, my heat is dying here. What's unique is that most of us don't get this variety. And so those of us that have been fortunate enough to take Juice Plus all these years have a definite advantage, and our gut is definitely healthier than if we weren't. But for most of us, because of the antibiotics and the stress and all the things I mentioned before, we need more. We need more. And that's why we now have this new product, whoops, that we're talking about tonight. So this is a unique blend, like I mentioned, of the bugs, the probiotics, and the food that they like to eat. And this food, in this case, the prebiotic from Superbiome is composed of 6 very unique plant fibers that are hard to get in our diet in a large amount and are very specific to feed the right bugs, not the wrong bugs. When you use the wrong fibers, you can get bloating and cramping and pain because sometimes you're feeding everybody, the good bugs and the bad bugs, the fermenting bugs that make gas. These fibers are specifically chosen because they tend to not do any of that. They tend to keep the gut very quiet, very calm, and not raise gas or bloating or fermentation. And it's just hard to eat enough Jerusalem artichokes or enough chicory in the day, for those of you that even know what that would look like, to keep your microbiome happy. And then we're going to talk about the 9 bacteria, the 9 probiotics that were chosen for this particular product. And I'm really excited about sharing this with you guys because, to be fair, at first I wasn't impressed because I see these all the time in most probiotics, but not quite this list. And so I did a little research, and hence here we are talking about this tonight. And I'm going to show you why I think this pick of these 9 is really rather brilliant. And I'm really excited that they're in here, that each of them has a very distinct benefit and that they also have this amazing synergy between them. So I'm not going to go through each of the 9. I think I've covered like 6 or 7 of them. But I really want to talk mostly about the synergy and what happens in combo, because every study that we talk about, that we read, anything that you see published in PubMed, says the same thing. A well-chosen blend of strains works better than any single one, and especially when combined with the fiber-rich foods that feed them. That's a direct quote from a journal, not from the Juice Plus website. It's exactly what the literature is saying is what this new product Superbiome is delivering. So probiotics are what these little molecules that we're talking about, like we mentioned, and some of them are called short chain fatty acids. You'll see SCFA all over the place if you start delving into this topic. So postbiotics can be all sorts of different compounds, including short chain fatty acids. All of these compounds tend to calm inflammation, not just in your brain, but elsewhere as well. And they reset the immune system. We'll talk about what this means in kids, but especially for people who are super sensitive to gluten or environmental allergies and get skin rashes, that's when these probiotics are really, really important. They, as I mentioned, help your body fight the bad germs by starving them and feeding the good ones only. And they seal leaky barriers. I'm going to mention that again in a minute because it's really important to understand. Some of these probiotic strains specifically strengthen our bones, which is a new finding and really important and fascinating. And there's a lot of work being done on probiotics addressing, or I should say the microbiome, right? Because it's not just the bug, it's the bug in the gut, in that environment of the gut that creates, with the right food, the right compounds to do all these things. So I'm going to abbreviate it to the probiotic, but understand that all by itself, probiotic does nothing. It sits in a bottle, right? This is only in the context of a healthy gut that these things are being fed and then create these postbiotics. So besides bones and hormones and really important fertility, there's a whole role for detox as well as for metabolizing cholesterol and other fats. There's a whole bunch of work being done on kidney and liver protection specifically with certain probiotics. And then, of course, if you've heard me speak before, you know that the brain is my favorite thing. And so there's a whole field having to do with the gut health, specific probiotics that make specific postbiotics that help heal the brain. And that's being looked at in all sorts of different ways right now in dementia, as well as in autism and ADHD and Parkinson's and so on. So big, important research happening. This is just a basic concept that I think it's really important to understand as you're thinking about all this, because it kind of underlies why this stuff works so well. So it's the concept of barriers. So we have these barriers that keep different parts of our body separated from other parts of our body. So just think about the gut. The gut, you can put anything in your mouth. The gut essentially has stool in it. That's not clean, right? We all know that. You want to keep your gut and your bloodstream very separate, and that's a barrier. That's the gut wall. And that gut wall is protected by mucus that the microbiome makes to make sure that nothing in the gut leaks out microscopically, we're talking, of course, but nothing in the gut leaks out into the bloodstream attached to it. So that's down here, right? So if this is the gut, this is the wall, the yellow cells are the wall of the gut, and you have a thick mucous membrane like you see here to make sure that what's in the gut stays in the gut and doesn't come out at all. And that barrier is critical because inflammation is made in the gut, is part of the gut normal thing, but you don't want that inflammation to leak out, because once inflammatory molecules leak out of the gut into the bloodstream, then you start getting the joint pain and the headaches and the body aches and the fatigue and the brain fog, all of that stuff. starts by breaching that barrier. And there's a similar barrier to the brain to protect the brain. And so the bloodstream doesn't just go into the brain. There's a blood-brain barrier to keep any kind of toxins or anything that shouldn't go into the brain out. And that barrier can also be breached or be damaged with inflammatory molecules. And so what we're trying to do is protect the barrier of the gut to in turn protect the barrier of the brain. Because if the gut starts to leak, the brain may start to leak, and then you get inflammation in the brain, which is infinitely worse than just inflammation in your tummy. So that's the basics of kind of why the microbiome and the brain are so connected, and actually why the gut is just so important for everything, and why you'll see me talking about everything from heart disease to diabetes in regard to the gut. So to summarize, an unhealthy microbiome weakens these barriers, it fuels inflammation, and in turn that changes the brain and neurotransmitters, which can make us moody and forgetful and not thinking clearly. Whereas a healthy microbiome does just the opposite. It protects those barriers, and that way it protects both the body and the brain. So let me just show you, I don't know why this slide popped up. Oh, okay, we'll just do it this way. So I'm going to show you each of the 9 strains, or most of them, really quickly to show you what each of them is best at. But I first wanted to start by showing you what 3 of the 9 that were chosen for this product are famous for. And if you look at these 3 in PubMed, which I did, by the way, you don't have to, yeah, you'll find that these 3 are often grouped together, because they find that when these 3 are together in the microbiome, they really work magic, and essentially having to do with the way you metabolize your food, your sugar, your fats, all of it called metabolism. And so these 3 together create the same kind of environment as what GPL-1s create. They protect the pancreas from overworking by regulating insulin and glucose better, and they also result in a difference in the way the brain perceives hunger or being full, what's called satiety. So these 3 are in our product, and I'm really glad that they are, because they have absolutely tremendous research. And here are 5 of the 9 that we have. Again, with a reference, the reference is called probiotic strains that stimulate the GLP-1 pathway, right? Is that clear enough for a title of a study, right? This is how you stimulate Ozempic. This is how you mimic, or rather, this is what the drug companies are mimicking by producing these compounds artificially. Your microbiome knows how to make these very well. And this is actually from the study showing 5, 6 maybe different mechanisms that each end up raising GLP-1. Therefore, each of those helping you to, whether it's lose weight or turn off the food noise or metabolize better, have a lower insulin, have lower blood sugars, have a better A1C, all of that happens. And do we have these 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bugs in superbiome? Yes, all 5 of them are in there: Planetarium, KC, Longus, Bifidum, Acidophilus, and Brevi. So again, a good pick for what ails us in general. So let's just start with the big ones, right? So the nomenclature, or the way we call these things, have changed, in case you're remembering from Biology 101, even me from microbiology, not as long ago maybe as some of you. We used to call these lactobacillus. Now they're called lactobacillus. Just bear with me. That's the new name. What can you do? You can just call them lactoplanarium, and that's the most common. It's found in every healthy gut, and specifically it's involved in gut meaning digestion, healing of the gut, lowering inflammation of the gut, preventing toxins in the gut from hurting you, and so on. Brain, all the brain things that we mentioned a minute ago, and this neuroprotective synergy. That's what this particular probiotic has been studied and shown specifically to do. There's other things, but I tried to keep it, down to 3 each, if you will. So dopamine makes us more motivated to do stuff. It's the reward center. It's all sorts of different things in our brain, and short chain fatty acids and neurotransmitter metabolism all are improved with Planetarium rather. And specifically in folks with celiac or gluten intolerance, this particular probiotic is showing some really interesting findings. It's still early days, but we think that that plantarum can help people break down gluten in the gut and deactivate it in some way to make it just less irritating. It also does all the other things we talked about, heal the lining of the gut, lower inflammation. So even if you do get some gluten and you're allergic to it, you're less likely to react if all the inflammation is already down and the lining of your gut is nicely healed. And then these are the other things in addition to the basic healing of probiotics that plantarum seems to help people with gluten deal with. So that's kind of fun. Lactobacillus rhamnos has a specific property in skin. And so it's really useful in children with eczema, as well as people with food allergies and various other allergies who get dermatitis or skin rashes. It seems to do this by specifically influencing part of the immune system that lowers bad interleukins and raises good interleukins. And there's also a whole lot of work on mood modulators for L. Ramos, specifically in anxiety, as well as in IBS. So IBS seems to be a combination, in irritable bowel syndrome seems to be a combination of many things. In my world, it's usually food allergies and dysbiosis, but there's clearly a pathway between being anxious and being stressed and having worse gut symptoms, which is the vagal nerve brain second brain gut pathway, that this particular probiotic seems to calm down that brain connection really specifically well. Casey, Lactobacillus casei, there's also a paracaseus, which I didn't mention here because they're similar, is specifically helpful for, again, GPL1s and insulin, but also for detox. It really is important. It's a kind of a keystone species, meaning when it's there, other species are going to be there that we need also, similar to something called Akkermansia, which you may have heard of, which is also a keystone species. The keystone species doesn't mean you have to take them. It means that if they're there, it's a good environment and other bugs will also thrive. And many of these are in that vein. So we're going to go fast and just get to the end here. You get the idea, right? I don't need to give you all of them. Fermentum does immune and mitochondrial health, which is energy. So it stimulates sirtuins, which is really important for mitochondrial health. Again, for skin. Good old acidophilus, many of you heard of because it's a really important probiotic. Again, gut mucosal lining barriers, and again, GPL1s and insulin. This is the bone one, rutiri, and so bone density as well as mouth health. But it also has something to do with bonding, the oxytocin love hormone, connection hormone, which is fascinating because these microbiomes change our mood, right? So mood is connected with connection. And so this is an interesting area that I think will show some new findings in terms of brain, right? Brain connectivity, oxytocin. And then bifido, which is maybe one of the most important probiotics. It's in all of us in a large amount, and it's very synergistic with everybody else. Longum, same thing. Brain, again, inflammation and gut. But I'm going to get to the fun one. Here we go. Infantes. So there's lots of different strains of this particular bifido, but I find this one really fascinating and important, and I'm very glad it's in our formula because it seems to be the link between mother and baby. It seems to be the way that the microbiome from mom's gut gets into baby with both vaginal delivery, but also through breastfeeding, all through skin to skin contact, right? They put your baby moms, right, on your chest as soon as they're born. Part of that is to exchange microbiome. And so this particular probiotic seems to be really important. I think I have in a slide. Yes, thank you. In preventing childhood eczema and setting up a baby's entire immune system to be healthier and just calmer. It seems to be a probiotic that calms everybody down, right? Mother and baby. It's just one of those, we're okay, nothing to stress about. Let's lower that inflammation. We're okay, right? And so this is a really important one to have. And not all formulas include this, but I'm glad that we do. So the synergy you guys see here is what's important. The synergy of all of these 9 different probiotics together is what the research is saying is the most powerful. And these 9 tend to deliver all of these different synergistic benefits, meaning the immune system, brain, metabolism, meaning weight, fat, insulin, sugar, all of that, appetite, and so on. we have picked, the royal we, I didn't pick it, sorry. Dr. Hatish and Dr. Sook picked the 9 most important, I think, probiotics that clearly have the most research. So I'll tell you that also. Each of these probiotics has hundreds. A couple of them have thousands of human studies, and you can look it up yourself in PubMed. And so they've all shown incredible safety across all ages and no matter what dose has been looked at. So I think that's important, obviously, for us as well. So this is just a quick summary. Not sure why if the colors came out that way, but this is an incomplete summary, I would say. But this is a summary based on the most studies. So if you look up microbiome in metabolic and liver, you'll come up with these 3 probiotics as the ranked top 3. Doesn't mean they're all don't have something to do with liver protection and GPL1s, as you saw, but these are the ones that have the biggest. And so I did not put in the 9 that were in the product and then look for them. I looked up the top 10 that were in research and showed these benefits, and I came up with the 9 that are in our formula. So I'm pretty pleased at how they managed to do that. And I'm going to stop my share right now. And so that's why I think that if we feed and seed, we give them the right food with Juice Plus essential capsules or superfoods, and then add the super biome special kinds of 6 fibers, and then seed that healthier gut with the food that they need with these particular probiotics. And by the way, 20 billion is a nice dose. It's a very healthy dose. And there's no point putting in more if you're not feeding them. And there's no need for more if you're feeding them and you're using the right 9 probiotics in an acid resistant capsule. So I encourage all of you to try this if you haven't. I don't think anyone has a super healthy gut anymore, at least not in my practice, not in my world. If you do, good luck. Good for you. But you're rare, and know that people around you need help. So I hope that you'll look into this more and ask the person who invited you to tonight's call to get more information about this. All right. Thank you all for joining me tonight. I hope that was helpful and
Dr.
informative.
Sachs, that was phenomenal. Thank you so much. And this can also be used in children. That can be a whole other call in the future. But I always like to mention to people, when you have any interest in this, please do see the person who shared this with you, as Dr. Sachs said, because we do have a very beautiful program that's been around over 25 years and is ongoing, called Healthy Starts for Families. And with that, we can have a child added to a grown-up's order of the essentials, the Juice Plus essential capsules or superfood powder. To that, we can add a child, whether it's a grandchild or another member of the family or your own child, for free. The children are free from the age of 4 up to the 26th birthday. So they're free from age 4 through the age of 25 years old. And I love that program. So I want to thank you all for joining. And Lori, let me turn it back over to you and just thank you for all that you do for all of us. And Dr. Sachs, thanks just from the bottom of my heart. And I know we all feel that way.
My pleasure, as always. Thanks.